My name is Deril. I'm in the Blackjack Hall of Fame. I've been asked to lead casinos on 6 continents. I beat the biggest casinos in the world with these card-counting computer shoes. I grew up with a lot of feminine energy, my mother and my 3 sisters. My biological father, I never met him. He left when my mother was pregnant with me. We were in a middle-class suburb of Los Angeles. Money was tight, though. We didn't have a lot of extra. When I was 16, my mother put a book called Beat the Dealer in my Christmas stocking. She thought it was about a card game. She didn't know it was about gambling. I always loved math, and I always loved cards. I think I was on the spectrum a bit, but I ended up learning how to count cards. So I ran away to Vegas as a teenager and made a career out of playing blackjack. I'd like to say it was Vegas in the 80s, but it was Vegas in the 70s. There were very few casinos, I mean, at that time, so it was kind of a small world. I was so young. I went there with $50 and a guitar and 1 shirt. I spent that $50 on a room for a week. As a youngster, there was a free breakfast at this place, catty corner from the Sahara, called the Centerfold. And every day, they would have a couple pieces of bacon and some potatoes and a couple of eggs. And it was free. There was always a young woman dancing on the stage. You had it all, right? Mostly I was there for the breakfast. I got a job selling ballpoint pens, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. I was cold calling businesses. My first paycheck was like $150, and I went right down to the Stardust and doubled it. And I thought, okay, this is good. I'm home. I'm gonna do well. I got an apartment. I just started practicing hours and hours, and I ultimately learned how to count cards. I mean, I had to make a living somehow, and I was good at math, so card counting was perfect for me. It was fun. I remember I was practicing so much, there was this gigantic 8 of clubs that would come into my dreams every night and chase me down the Las Vegas Strip. Once you have it, these casinos are your ATM. Card counting is not cheating. It's just playing a game. The casino offers the game. You're gambling your own money. Do you want to play it well, or do you want to play it badly? If the casinos could identify the card counters, they could ask them to leave. Because it's just a business, and if you aren't going to make them money in the long term, they don't want you in their business. People have this idea, card counting, you have to be a genius. The truth is, I could teach you to count cards in a day. It's about keeping track of the little cards versus the big cards. So you keep a running total. 2 through 6, you add 1. And for the big cards, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace, you subtract 1. So you can see if your running count is positive, that means there's more big cards in the deck, and that gives the player an edge for a couple of reasons. The dealer has to hit their hard 16, and you don't. So the dealer will bust more often. You know a little bit about what's left in the deck, so you can move your bet up or down, and then you can vary the play of your hand. Card counting is about being good with simple math under pressure. The big cards are favorable to the player, and the small cards are favorable to the house. And that's what card counting is. I got way better than I needed to get. Finally, I went to a casino, and I saw a guy was betting the same way I was betting. He was Ken Houston. Ken was maybe to this day, is the most famous card counter. His thing was team play, where a group of players use signals to beat the casino out of their money and then split the winnings. I was invited to try out for the Ken Houston team. I went for this tryout, and I had no idea what they were going to do, and they handed me a deck of cards. They said, count this down. And I realized they're going to time me. And I counted down.
+8.
And they say, 10 seconds.
Is that good?
And they say, that's the best we've ever seen.
It's good.
Yeah?
It's good. Put her there.
And they hired me.
So I'm in.
I was just a kid, just trying to find my way in the world while I was doing these big things. You know, this was the biggest blackjack team on the planet. I was looking for some male role models, and unfortunately, I found perhaps the wrong ones. We had fun. There were team dinners where we'd go out and meet after the game. We'd pool the winnings, and I'd get my cut. I remember our first big win. We went down to the motorcycle dealer, and we bought a couple of Honda 750s and drove them to Los Angeles. Rented a Rolls Royce for a week just to get our pictures in it. And there was just drugs and women. All these other people on the team had already gotten steamed up. You know, they had already been caught counting a lot. So they sent me in, and they would have a big player come in and sit on the other side of the table, and it would be them that bet the money and them that won the money, but we would be telling them exactly what to do. A big player is somebody who looks like a losing gambler, and in fact, they don't really know how to play the game. Somebody like myself is sitting on the other side of the table, signaling them how much to bet and how to play their hands, so we could get a big payoff but not draw a lot of attention to ourselves. Simple stuff. This would be question. This would be come into the game, hot deck. This would be I can't see. This would be I can't hear. Go to that table, eat some cards. It means like get rid of the low cards that are still in the deck if you're betting low. Play is over. The casino is looking at this and thinking maybe this is okay. It doesn't look like there's a card counter there. This guy's drinking.
Hey, sweetheart.
It was very compelling to try to take their money. All these suits that are looking at you, trying to figure out if you're doing exactly what you're doing.
Wow, big winner.
Cameras that are watching you and recording you, and they like to think that card counting was illegal, but we were just playing by their rules. At that time, in the 70s, the mafia was really running things. The Griffin agency was working it for the casinos. So there was one agency that was doing some detective work, and they're trying to catch card counters. They did not like those card counters. If you're actually playing well, oh no, we don't like you, and we're gonna take your picture, we're gonna show it to everybody. People started getting barred, and sometimes it was a little bit ugly. I remember Ken Houston got punched and broke about 19 bones in his face. And I got threatened at the dunes. They brought me to the back room, and the guy had a pair of pliers, and he was just holding the pair of pliers. And they threatened me with the big wide open desert out there. They ended up arresting me, you know, of course, disturbing the peace or whatever. They just were powerful, and they kind of did what they wanted. Once I was card counting in this casino, won a little bit of money, got the tap on the shoulder. It was the owner of the casino. And he asked me to come with him, bring the chips. And we sat there in his office. He put the chips on the table, and he kept saying, it's a very dangerous game you're playing. It's a dangerous game you're playing. But we negotiated over these chips. He was gonna take some, and I would take some. And finally he said, well, you wanna ride back to your hotel? And I said, I don't think so. And I called Art, my friend, who was still back at the hotel. It was a bit stressful, but I said, Art, can you come down here and pick me up? He said to me, do you think they might kill you? I said, I think they might. And so he said, I'll send a taxi. I just wasn't smart enough to have any fear about these situations. I really just played to win. I took the money home and lived.